Imagine an AI trading bot suddenly loses $1 billion in a single millisecond. Who do you sue? Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating paper by Clive Gerald Aldrid called A Provenance-Bound Agency Framework, Cryptographic Accountability for Autonomous Systems. You know, as artificial intelligence moves beyond just writing emails to actually taking real-world, high-stakes actions, this question of liability is absolutely paramount. And this paper, it provides a seriously robust engineering framework to tackle exactly that problem.
Here is the roadmap for our explainer today. We'll start with the AI accountability gap, move into the Provenance-Bound Framework, break down how the protocol actually works, look at catching fraud, dive into the security economics bound, and finally, wrap up with the limitations and the real-world legal reality.
So, back to that ultimate question. When an autonomous AI makes a massive mistake, who is left holding the bag? If an automated legal agent signs a wildly flawed contract, tracing its reasoning right now is a total nightmare. It's basically the ultimate "the dog ate my homework" excuse, but we're talking about billions of dollars on the line. Right now, an AI agent's action is essentially a black box. Its internal logic and how it complies with complex jurisdictional rules are completely opaque. And because of that, its actions can be super easily repudiated or just straight up denied.
Let's jump right into Section 1, the AI accountability gap.
Historically, we've just relied on institutional trust. You trust a highly regulated bank, or you rely on these really slow post-hoc audits. But honestly, we simply cannot rely on an audit that takes 6 months when an AI is executing thousands of trades in a fraction of a millisecond. That's just not going to cut it anymore. We need mathematical guarantees. We literally have to structurally replace blind trust with verifiable proof.
Which brings us to Section 2, the Provenance-Bound Framework.
To solve this massive accountability gap, the paper introduces something called the Cryptographic Accountability Predicate. Now, I know that sounds incredibly dense, but the core idea is actually brilliant. It means an action is only considered valid if the AI can mathematically prove exactly how it made its decision. It completely demands a tamper-evident receipt of the AI's internal logic and the specific rule set it followed. So rather than just blindly trusting the company that launched the AI, we are demanding undeniable cryptographic proof of its reasoning.
But we have to make a really vital distinction here between provenance and correctness. This framework guarantees provenance, meaning we know for an absolute fact that the AI followed the rules it was given. But it doesn't guarantee correctness. Think of it this way. The system can prove the AI correctly signed a payment contract for a delivery, but it cannot prove that the physical delivery truck actually showed up in the real world. That kind of semantic, real-world correctness, that remains a totally separate and very much open problem in AI alignment.
All right, let's get into the mechanics in Section 3, how the protocol works. Here is the golden rule of this entire system. Trust is a vulnerability surface. Seriously, let that sink in for a second. We have to assume the maximum adversarial capability. We cannot trust the human operator, we can't trust the institutional middlemen, and we definitely cannot trust the AI itself. Any trust in this system has to be mathematically reduced to publicly verifiable cryptography or a distributed consensus mechanism. No exceptions.
To completely remove that human trust, the protocol sets up a sort of digital courtroom with 3 main actors. First up is the proposer. That's the AI actually making the choice. But here's the catch. The AI has 0 signing power on its own. It has to pass its reasoning over to the Attestation Quorum, which acts like a distributed notary holding cryptographic key shares. Finally, you have the Adjudication Engine. This is a sandboxed virtual machine that strictly evaluates compliance against the rule set before a single thing gets signed.
Moving right along to Section 4, catching fraud and disputes.
Okay, but what if that quorum decides to collude and go rogue? Well, we have this genius defense mechanism called the optimistic dispute window. Transactions are submitted, but they don't settle instantly. During this window, independent watchdogs monitor the network. If they spot any fraud, they immediately submit a deterministic proof. The fraudulent transaction is reversed, and the corrupt quorum gets their staked collateral severely slashed. Basically, they lose their money. Only if that time window passes without a valid fraud proof does the transaction actually reach finality.
The simulation data from their adversarial benchmark is actually wild. Even when the quorum has a totally corrupt majority, meaning literally 100% of their attestations are unauthorized, the watchdog network still achieves a massive 99.8% fraud detection rate. If you compare that incredibly low 0.02% attack success rate to the huge vulnerabilities we see in legacy systems, it's just a night and day difference. It's a total game changer.
Next up, Section 5, the Security Economics Bound.
This brings us to a pretty harsh engineering reality check known as the Security Economics Bound. Simply put, an economically rational attacker is only going to hack the system if the loot inside is worth more than the cost of the hammer needed to break in. Makes sense, right? The minimum cost of forging a signature or evading these dispute catchers must strictly, mathematically exceed the adversary's total budget.
So time, money, and security form this incredibly strict mathematical triangle. If your AI is handling, let's say, a multi-billion-dollar settlement, the economic incentive for someone to attack it is absolutely massive. To secure it, you have to pull the time lever. You structurally extend that challenge period, giving watchdogs way more time to catch anomalies, which effectively drives the mathematical cost of evading fraud detection all the way toward infinity.
The author is super candid here about something called the value velocity limit. It basically boils down to this. You cannot secure infinite money instantly. It's just a fundamental physical limit of economic security. The system is incredibly robust, for sure, but it forces designers to acknowledge that arbitrarily large, instant settlements are going to require an equally massive crypto-economic backing. You can't cheat the math.
And finally, Section 6, Limitations and Legal Reality. Let's be totally pragmatic for a second. This framework isn't magic. It definitely has blind spots. For instance, a nation-state might attack the system just to break it, completely regardless of the financial cost to themselves. Plus, we face this massive hurdle called the semantic gap. Translating messy, nuanced human laws into perfect, deterministic machine code is a huge, unsolved, last-mile problem in legal tech. The protocol guarantees the code was evaluated perfectly, but it can't guarantee the code perfectly captures the spirit of human law.
And this is where the paper just completely shatters that old cyberpunk dream that code is law. Code is not law. It is an evidentiary audit trail. It's not some robot judge in a wig replacing human courts. What it actually does is give human arbitrators a perfectly tamper-evident receipt, prima facie evidence of exactly what the AI did and exactly why it did it.
So, as AI inevitably takes the wheel of our critical financial and legal infrastructure, we are faced with a massive choice. Are we going to just blindly trust the black box, or will we demand verifiable cryptographic proof? The framework we looked at today offers a really realistic, mathematically secure path forward, but how we choose to hold our agentic future accountable, well, that's ultimately up to us. Keep questioning the systems around you.